stuff. So I have a lot of anticipation. I see what happens at these Shabbosos, and the impact it has afterwards is so profound. Being together, with fellow journeyers. We're together in this journey is awesome, because most of us, my experience anyway, is to some degree, we all feel very alone. To some degree, everyone feels somewhat the uniqueness of their own journey and their own struggles and suffering. So we feel somewhat isolated, and it's just this kind of Shabbos together with a big arm of people together. We're all in the same sugya, pachas or more or less, and trying to help each other, understand each other, be mechazik each other. I don't know. For me, it's like la'ela ula'ela. It's gavaldi. So I have anticipatory anxiety, about what we're going to experience in the next few days together. Does that make sense? That's my feeling. Anyone else have any thoughts or feelings about what you hope to get out of this, what you're feeling now, what you're looking for, what you're hoping for? Please, go ahead.
I know what I felt last time, so I'm kind of hoping for the same thing this time. To be amongst a bunch of people who don't judge me.
I'm going to repeat that, because I think they might be taping this, and I want to make sure that was heard. So you're looking forward to being amongst a bunch of people who don't judge you. Well, welcome. We don't judge you. Not in the slightest. Maybe we have to learn not to judge ourselves either. To understand. I mean, actually, that's what I hope to talk about tomorrow. That that we'll come out of it understanding better what this journey is about, and that there's the judgment issue is something that we're living in such a tight society around us, with incredibly rigid expectations and almost no information to prepare us for how to actually produce that expectation, and very few voices out there telling us that the chances of producing the precision expectation that's put upon us when we get married and have kids, the chances of that are slim. Very slim, if not impossible. No one tells us that. So yeah, it's natural that we judge. Would you agree?
Yeah, and I would even go a little further of acceptance, which we all know is something so important to do. I mean, we first have to learn not to let the judgment get to us, because people will judge. But the bigger piece is our acceptance, because that's why this conversation is about, we've been here a long time. And where are we going with this at this point? Why isn't it moving maybe the way we want it to be, or the way we think it ought to be? So that acceptance is key to us moving forward. Because without it, it can't move forward.
Yeah, can I add to that?
Absolutely.
So here's another thought. I probably for, I don't know, a long time, I don't know how long, but for a long time, I've been working myself on not judging the judges. I've really tried to find a place in myself to stop judging them who judge me, or who did judge me.
To understand them.
Yeah, to understand them, and to put it was very crucial, as a matter of fact. I actually spent a few years trying to let go of judging one of the people who not only judged me, but wrecked one of our daughters.
Participated in a big way.
Was the shliach for the wrecking. He was the ball on the end of the chain, the wrecking ball. And amazingly, he davened in the same Beis Medrash that I davened in, and he was in my line of vision when they did Hagbah. He was right there in my line of vision when they did Hagbah. And I really had a hard time just looking at the Sefer Torah, during Hagba because he was there. It took me a few years to make peace and stop judging him for judging me. It took me a few years. And the end of it, I actually went over to him one point and I asked him Mechila. I asked him if he could be Meichel me. And he asked me, what for? And I said, well, I've hated you for a long time now. I've really hated you badly. Wanted, fantasized bad things happening to you. And I've let it go. And I want to apologize to you for that. Amazingly, he asked me, what took you so long? Yeah. Oh, so that's why I raised it. It's an avoda. I had actually gone over to him many, many times. I've been inspired by drashas, and I found out that being inspired by a drasha does not mean internally you've changed at all. This is very important information. Like I hear, you all know what I'm talking about. You get inspired and you feel in that moment, but how do you stay in that place? And I had lost the inspiration from the end of the drasha to halfway across the base of Medrash to go and ask Mechila. I'd already lost the inspiration. I realized it wasn't authentic. So I worked on it for years. I actually worked on it for many, many years. I made it an avoda to understand that those who hurt us have no actual malicious intent against us or our kids. They don't. They're lacking.
L'shem shemayim.
They're lacking. No. It means like this. They didn't sit down in a sort of Machiavellian kind of way to work out how can I wreck the Russell's kid, with utter malicious intent. What they did was protecting their school, protecting their convent, protecting their street, their block, their community, their child, who they thought our kid was wrecking their kid. The intent, I realized, was self-preservation, was their own flight into self-preservation. But it wasn't a plan to see what could I do to wreck the Russells.
It's l'shem shemayim in their mind.
Yeah.
In their mind, it's l'shem shemayim. They have a cheshbon that makes sense to them because of the bigger picture in their lives.
I worked on that. You have a question, please.
What if one spouse has that problem, but the other one doesn't?
So that's the frame of that question. Can I hold that question just for a bit? I'll tell you why. Because that question is valid in everything we're going to be talking about this weekend.
A great question.
In other words, it's not just about this, it's about everything, and I have to find a place to address it respectfully. I'm aware of it. But this I want to stay with the judging thing, is that okay? Yeah, yes, please.
Even though you mentioned that the person didn't have malicious intent, why is it always that I find very often that the person who is wrong is very often going to be the one to ask? I see it so many times. Why, if they did it maliciously and they saw a result, why didn't they come and
Okay, so did everyone hear the question? It is a beautiful question. How come we're left with the one asking Mechila kind of thing, and they're not, the ones who hurt us? This fits in my our value system that we've worked on for years and years. Remember, we're doing this 25 years. This started for us 25 years ago. So it's a long time. And,
More.
What?
More.
There's more?
Yeah, she's turning 40 this year.
Oh, okay.
27.
27 years, okay.
But every year makes a difference, right?
Yeah. And evolving and growing all the time. So the question is like this. They, unlike us, miss the opportunity that we grasp. I really believe everyone here is learning to grasp the opportunity for my ruchnius, for my growth, for my dveikus b'yisbach, for my development, for my tikkun amidus. We are on a roller coaster. It's true. But we're going up high and we're growing and we're fighting. We've chosen to grasp this nisayon and let it take us somewhere. Because we know, I think by now, if we don't, we're in deep trouble. Personally and with our children. We are in deep trouble. Most of us probably have had the experience or internal thought at times, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can do this. This is just too hard. And we fight through those feelings to find love and understanding and caring, and we transcend to a place that those who hurt us can't get to. And then we have to learn how not to be arrogant about that. I know it's crazy. It sounds crazy. But it sounds crazy, but it's not. When I went over to him, I asked Mechila, he said to me, what took you so long? And I could have punched him in the nose, I'll be honest. It was insane. It was absolutely insane. Although it fit afterwards, the whole pattern. It made sense. But I told him a story. It's a fabulous story. That when Rav Elia Lopian left Gateshead and he went to Kfar Hasidim in Eretz Yisrael, he used to go back every Elul to give chizuk to the Yishuv, to the Olam in Gateshead. And one year he came back and they danced him into yeshiva. He was the Gadol Hados. They and a Zokain. They danced him into yeshiva, and by accident someone kicked him in his ankle on the way in, and the yeshiva winced in pain. And he looked down and saw this person. The person, hey, Rebbe, bet Mechila, I'm so sorry. And he looked at him, and he said to him, Epis, he said, come nach the shir, frag noch einmal. Please come and ask again after the shir. A bit shocking. By the way, this story I verified is true. I asked Mori Rebbe, the Mashgiach, one time. He said to me, Shimon, he said, the story is zicher true. You definitely say it better than it happened, but it's true. That's what he told me. But it is a true story. Anyway, he came after the shir, the younger man, and bet Mechil Nochamal. And he asked, and the Shiva said to him, Nein, Efshe Morgan, noch Shachris. Third time. So apparently he came after Shachris to his house in Gateshead, knocked on the door. And this time, Avelia welcomed him in. And he asked again. He said, yeah, machalach, 100%. So of course, he had to ask, how come? Why did it take so long, right? I don't get it. And Avelia got very serious and said to him, you should know. Do you remember last year I came to speak El? And he said, yeah, I remember what he said. No, forget what I said. But do you remember I came? He said, sure. Do you remember what happened outside on the way in? And the younger man, rather shamefaced, said, yes. I kicked Rosh Yeshiva then too. Which he did, the year before. By accident, they were dancing, and he wanted to be close to him, very close, and he kicked him that year too. He said, that's right. And he said, yes, Taka Shver, because then Rosh Yeshiva was meichel me right away. So why did it take so long this, Yeah, Alom Disha, So then he said to him, it's true, I was meichel you, at least I thought I was. He said, but when I saw you this year, you kicked me and I saw your face, a voice in my head said, him again, and I realized I wasn't meichel you. He said, I stayed up last night. He didn't sleep the whole night. He was so troubled that he wasn't meichel, that he stayed up the whole night to get it out of him, so that if it'll happen the next year, it won't be him again. So na'ezach. That's Mechila. And, who gets to go to that kind of place but us? Who gets there? It's all talk. I'll be honest. It's all talk. For most people, Mechila, Mechila, Machalach, they line up Machalach, what does it even mean? It's like weird. I find the whole thing weird. But who gets to go to these deep places of Avodah? Who schlepped there except us, who are schlepped there in a way that's so amazing and so real, the opportunities we're given, are so incredible, we get schlepped there. And I tell you, aside from the etzem work to realize nobody had a plan to hurt my kid. They were completely wrapped up in their own sugya. They were just completely in their own sugya of fear, defense mechanisms, their own complex trauma, their own issues, who knows what. The registration of their moisad went down because, how they're all terrified about their moisters. And we get to go there to this place to find the depths of that mechila, to understand it wasn't about my kid. They were shliach. They used to use actually I told him that. I said, that's your cheshbon. Your cheshbon's why were you the shliach. My cheshbon is, I'm moichel you. I know you had no plan to do what you did. And it's over, it's gone. Your cheshbon, if you want to, work out how come you were chosen to be the shliach. That's your choice. To which he said, no, and walked off. Okay, that doesn't bother me. I think our place afterwards is to find a place of such genuine reflection where we don't feel better than anyone else. When we reach that place of mechila, that's also an avodah. Just be grateful I got there. Grateful I found that place. It's all about avodah. It's the whole sugya from beginning to end, which we didn't know. Was that for us? I'm talking about us. I'm not talking about when we learn the techniques and skills to help our children. That's a sugya of chinuch, or that's a sugya of hatzala. Whatever we want to call it. That's a sugya klapi our child. That's a different sugya. I'm not talking about that sugya. That's different. That's a skills learning sugya to help the children. I'm talking about the sugya where our children have helped us. Where our children took us to a place that we would simply not have... I can tell you, I'll speak for myself. My wife is Sadeka. She's special. That's different. Me, I was a regular guy. And my kids took me to a place that, quite honestly, I could never have imagined in my wildest dreams I would be. In my own avodas Hashem and tikkun amidas. It's not shaykh. And my kids took me there.
They're still taking me there.
And they're still taking us there.
No, it never ends. It really never ends. There's not a lack of opportunity to grow, ever. So it really is a gift. It really is a gift, because when you get to and we're doing this a very long time, I'm sure quite a few of you probably also are, when you get to a certain point, you say, wow. You really say, wow. And you're actually, I'm sorry to say this at this point where people can understand this, but you feel good because you're in a place you really never could have gotten to without all this pushing and forcing you to grow. So really, this is about us. I don't want to say it's not about them, it's about them, but for us, it's about us. We're here to assist them in their journey, but this is, for us, about our growth. And through that, Emirat Hashem, they will grow if we truly grow. If anyone can relate to that.
See, that was nodding.
Okay. But it keeps getting better, by the way. It really does. I don't want to say it in a way like it's painful for some people, but we were in that pain, deep in the pain, and we couldn't have gotten to where we are now without going through that pain. So, right. I'm not saying it just loosely. It really, really needs to happen in order to grow. Was that too...
That was well said.
No, I'm saying...
No, it's good. It's good.
Challenging.
It was beautiful.
It is. That's what I'm saying. Is it challenging to hear?
Go ahead.
Food is the cream of the crop.
Right.
Uh-huh.
So I'm saying, is that too challenging to hear? Because I'm sure a lot of people are...
Yeah.
It's still hard.
I wouldn't mind growing without all that pain.
See,
That's ideal, right?
See, I'll tell you hashkafically, people ask, we say in Tefillah and Shachris that Al tavieni l'dei nisayon, don't take me through nisyanis. We daven it, we ask. So it's a fascinating question if we're davening for it. So why are we sitting here all proud of our nisyanis and it's taken us this great place? What does that even mean? How do we do that if we daven every morning? And I researched this question for a long time. I spoke it over with many Rabbanim, Gedolim, Rebbes, until I found a conclusion. I heard various answers, but the answer that sat with me best, that resonated within me, and certainly when I shared it with various Gedolim, Divrei Emes Nikarim, is the fact that we have to be humble. We cannot ask Hashem to give us nisyonos. We should. We really should, but we can't, because that's arrogant. It's poshut arrogant to say to Hashem, hey, bring it on. Bring it on. I once did it, I must tell you. When we got through the nisyon with our first one, I actually was speaking in Lakewood. I was giving a drasha, and I couldn't believe the words came out of me. You know, someone said they were shocked. I said, bring it on. Come on. Let's go. Let's bring it on. Which was the place I was in. He whopped me hard afterwards. You know, we got like, you know, so he put me in my place. But it's arrogant to say, bring it on. Because we can't. It's the same way that men, we don't say the bracha, we say Shalosh ani isha. We don't say Sha'asa li ish. Why not? The lady says, right? Why do we say Shalosh ani? You say Shalosh ani kirtzayna, the way I was meant to be. Why don't we say that? Like, I don't get that. Why? Or Sha'asa li ish. And the answer is Pasha. The Meforshim say, because a man has a chiyuv in all mitzvahs, aseh shezman grama as well. Right, we both, ladies are potter from those because of child rearing and babies and life. So we are chayiv in that. So to say, I feel proud and confident that I can do them all, that's not right. You can't do that. So we say it with humility. Shalosh ani isha. You know, I recognize I got all those too. But it's really a humble way of saying it, of accepting the responsibility to do it all with humility. Well, it's the same thing here. Al Tavienu de Nisayan is a tefillah reflecting humility. That's all it is. Because the yesod of life is the opposite, is nisyonos. And these nisyonos are what we need to make us who we are. I'm going to be speaking tomorrow on this subject. This is going to be the heart of what I'm going to be talking about tomorrow. Mitzvah Hashem. Yes, questions? Please. Okay, so the question is, were we able to access that while in the struggle, or was it something we felt afterwards? So I'm going to turn to my wife and see what she says.
They've been different times, all our lives together. Since they were able to start to struggle.
We never had a break.
Yeah, we never had a break. So it was constant growth, constant challenges, ups and downs. Sometimes the wave hits you a little too hard, but then you come back up. And so is life. But it's non-stop effort to grow.
Right. The work was in finding it in the midst of it. And
you had to.
We had to.
No
we
choice.
Had to. That doesn't mean every moment of every second of every day was this like joyful acceptance, you know, of all these massive nisyonos. We cried frequently. I said one time, Beis Vega was the first chasna hall in Lakewood. Now I think there's like 50, I don't know how many. They lost count. But there was one Beis Vega in those days. And it was a block away from our house. We lived on that block, the other side of the same block. So it was very convenient, no parking. It was terrific. We just walked around the corner into Beis Vega. And there were many times we walked around the corner and we couldn't get in the door because we were in so much pain. And we just went home.
Yeah, and thinking, no, our daughter's never going to
she's
experience
never going to be. We're never
which
going
I'm
to
sure
be there.
you've all.
She was a teenager, 13, 14, our eldest at the time, when they opened the hall, and we just thought this is never happening for us. I couldn't get in the hall, and we just continued past the door silently. We just walked quietly. We just looked at each other, walked past, and went home.
Made the effort.
It wasn't happening. So the nisayon was shver. And then one day I decided, I'm getting in that hall. I'm going in there. I'm going to go in there and do it. And that's what it's about. It's about finding that strength. That it's the clarity of recognizing that we are not alone. Hashem is taking. There's no such thing. It's just like I tell the kids when I work with kids. So this kid's smoking on Shabbos, and he's in his bedroom, or she's in her bedroom. They're going to smoke, or they're going to, do whatever they're going to do, and we're going to talk it through. And it's a whole issue. Should they, shouldn't they, will they, won't they? Well, the parents are going to say, it's a whole conversation we have we have this conversation in the room. Sarah Dianuka. What was I going to say? So, whenever I talk to the kids, I always tell them, listen, if you're going to smoke in your room on Shabbos, this is a choice you have to make. You have to work out a way, if you can, having an open conversation with the kids, where this is something you're not invading your parents' domain. Can you do that? Whatever. We talk it through, but then I say to them, ultimately, this question is between you and Hashem. Because when you're in that room smoking, you and Hashem are in that room together. He's with you in that room while you're smoking on Shabbos. And if anyone understands your tsar and why you're doing it, HaKadosh Baruch Hu does. He's in that room with you. It's been sort of fundamental to my hashkafa and belief that we don't drive Hashem away when we're in tsar and we're not behaving very well. If we did, just imagine what Kol Nidre would look like in every shul. No one would be there. We'd have pink slips in our shtendas. We'll all be like, how many of us, honestly, can faithfully say that every commitment I made last year by Ne'ilah, I'm holding there next year's Kol Nidre. Everyone else, please don't come to shul this year. How many people are going to shul? Right? And yet HaKadosh Baruch Hu forgets. The first tefillah on Yom Kippur is to be matir avaryonim, to come back. We need everyone. Hashem wants. So to think that Hashem's not with our children when they're Mechal Shabbos and whatever they do, of course He is. Hashem's with everybody in their struggles and their nisyonis, and He's with us too in our pain and our suffering and our struggles. So we can hurt and have pain and be with Hashem at the same time and be real and human and keep working at it to realize Hashem is with us. Yeah.
So just a question, I don't know if you touched on this at all. If that's the message that you give over to your children, that Hashem loves you and, that He's with you and you're suffering and everything, but that's clearly not what they're hearing at school.
Really?
Really?
No, I'm kidding. Okay.
Yes,
Say,
I know you are.
sorry.
I know you are. Okay. And it doesn't just affect what I've seen is, my daughter, who's our kid, has not been in school for like 4 years already. But my next daughter, who is more of a Kiwi than a Skip, but she is affected very much by what is spoken about and very triggered by things that are said because she has a sister in this situation, and her parents are Bali Tshuva, so, her grandparents aren't from, and everyone's going to Gehenna. It's just, So, I guess the real question is, I know that I'm giving over the right hashkafa, but how do you have a recommendation of, how to be stronger than the school? I mean, just to keep, I don't know, I've just encouraged open communication, and I've said to her, if something rubs you the wrong way, or it doesn't feel right, please come talk to me and we'll talk it out, and I've been pretty successful, but it's really hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
Sure. So two observations. Do you want to say something?
Well, yeah, I was just going to say, keep doing what you're doing because it sounds like you're doing the right thing. And there's no quick fix, obviously. It's the consistency of the relationship. So I was just going to say that's great what you're doing, and then you say your two things. You have two things to say?
Yeah, no, two things, two observations. One is, by the way, when people use this, like, there are a lot of people amongst us here who are not familiar with the customary or, terminology of Kiwis and skips and all this shit. So if you could just, anyone who speaks, be aware there are many people who are scratching their head. Kiwis? I don't see a fruit platter. I don't see a fruit platter. I'm not sure what we're talking about. So if we could just if we could, that's not one. But here's the thing. You see, we are on a different plane. It's not a matter of, the schools. You see, school is it's a
business.
Necessary evil. It's a necessary evil. Recently, I quoted Rabbi Shimon Russell, and I was doing a podcast. You probably haven't. Some of you may have seen. I don't know what happened to me. I lost it. I just lost it, and
A rare moment.
A rare moment, yes. And I mentioned what he had said, and actually, I turned out that he was saying over in Yiddish one of my drushes, which was fascinating. But he added his own Tosefus when he pointed out that the Rosh Tevis of Moised is the same as Stoim. It's the same Osius.
I couldn't believe they let that out.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it either. And when I said it, I was able to just quote him, so it's perfect. I'm off the hook. Although he was saying over my drasha, which was fascinating. He said it much better than me as well. It was beautiful Yiddish. It was. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, the point is like this. Meisters, let's be very real, are a necessary evil. Why? Why do I say that? Because a meised, by its nature, is a necessary evil. Because by its very nature, parents are meant to be meised Torah to their children and are given siyata dishmaya to do that. How is it possible that every parent could possibly give over Torah to their children? How's that shy? We're not all mechanchim. We don't even have time to do it. So how's that possible? The answer is, I'm just kept in, what the Sfarim say. So the answer is that because we're given siyata d'shmaya as parents, that we could handle it. Oh, I know. When we send our kids to moistus, how do they get the siyata d'shmaya to do it? So some want to argue, and it's a wonderful fundraising ploy, that if you pay full tuition and you make them a proper shliach, it could be they get your siyata d'shmaya. It could be. There are those who want to taina. It could be true, by the way, in halacha. It could be in hashkafa. The only way they could do it, how can they do it? To get our siyata, become a shliach, and then shliach shal and kamaisa, and then you're me, I'm you, and then you get my siyata d'shmaya. But and many people want to say that only works if you pay full tuition.
It doesn't.
It doesn't anyway. Thank you. Yes, I was going to say the same. We paid full tuition all the time. So clearly that's not true, right? So, I was going to say the same thing because we did the same. So that's for sure not true. So what it means is like this. A Moised is doing an impossible task. Every Moised is doing an absolutely impossible task. There is not a possibility, genuinely, to take, let's say, 30 kids who happen to be geographically similar, living near each other, and chronologically similar ages, that they should all learn the same way and be as happy as each other and able to imbibe from a Rebbe all together in a class is an actual impossibility. It can't happen. It's impossible. So the starting premise is that a Moised that's teaching Torah is a necessary evil. But it's evil in the sense that it can't possibly do the job properly because the whole principle of trying to do it can't work. It certainly can't work without siyata d'shmaya. And why would they have? You understand, they don't have our parental siyata d'shmaya. Maybe some would argue they have a reason why they think they do. But at the same time, if you look at the cross-section, as hard as they try to get comparable kids whose learning styles, maturity level, ability to process, to be equal, where they're all entertained and learn and steig together in that class, is not shaykh.
And haven't experienced trauma.
And that doesn't factor in trauma for any of the kids who are trauma victims.
That's just regular, run-of-the-mill kids.
Years ago, I ran some conferences. Years ago, through Nefesh International, we ran these conferences on children in crisis, trying to work out what's going on. We brought 100 people together to a hotel for a few days, and we argued and we debated. You know, we sat around, it wasn't drushes, we sat around the table, we split people in groups, and like 20 professionals and mechanchim and rabban, we sat and we argued and debated for a few days, these like lengthy sessions trying to work it all out. And we realized that even if we work out something, we're not factoring trauma. So, and how do you know who's the trauma victims in the class? I can tell you, on average, that in an average class of 30 kids, you absolutely statistically have 6 sexual abuse victims in that classroom, in the average class of 30 kids. That's just a statistic across the board. And there's no way they're going to know that yet. We worked out at the time that if we had a delicate system that could actually tease out better than who was more likely than not from 4th grade and up to be off the derech by 9th grade. We had a system where we could pretty fairly, predict it, and it wouldn't take too long to do. Yeah, we could see what their issues. We broke down 24 different risk factors, and you can go down the class with the teachers and the rebbeim. You can work it out pretty quickly and put the information together. Why wouldn't we give this to parents? We begged them, let's give the parents information early on of what the risk factors are. There's a million reasons why the system as we have it is a necessary evil. Without it, it will be a disaster. We can all imagine that. It would be a total disaster. The rebuilding after the Holocaust came through the Moshe Sataya, and it was necessary for the restructuring and rebuilding of Klal Yisrael. At the same time, it's a system that absolutely cannot work, certainly not for the trauma victims in the class, and there's so many of them. And if we include complex trauma, like the sexual trauma is about, like I said, 6 out of 30 on average. Now if we include complex trauma victims, that means for most of them who've grown up, as we've talked again and again, that they're children who've experienced physical, emotional, psychological, sexual, spiritual abuse at some point in their process. And the chances are that they're not online when they're in school. They're not thinking, they're not able to access the part of the brain they need frequently, predictably, and reliably. They cannot access that part of it. That means they're not going to do well in the system.
It's about 20%, right?
Well,
it works for about.
We figured, the best I figure is that about 20% of the kids at absolute best will make it through the system beautifully and unscathed. Only about 20%. Yeah. Now that doesn't mean that 80% go off the deck. That's ridiculous. Of course not. But there's 80%. The 80% walk away wounded. Very, very wounded. When we get talking with people, young adults trying to bring up their own kids, they're deeply wounded, feeling like a loser. I failed the system. Husbands who don't really want to learn again because learning triggers so much trauma. And men who don't go to shul. How many men I know just don't want to go to shul because walking into shul and having to be there, it triggers them tremendously. And of course women the same thing. I have so many, in the same way that they've turned learning for girls into this high level thing that makes no sense. And of course they walk away feeling like a loser, as if I should have been able to do that. No, you shouldn't. Who said you should do it? No one. It's absolutely not true. But they make them feel so about 80% walk away wounded one way or another. Of course they don't go off. That's not true. We know that. But they walk around wounded. So the moistus are a necessary evil. Without them, I hate to think what Klal Yisrael would look like or wouldn't look like without the moistus. But with them, we have a system that, Mitzvah Hashem, God willing, I hope, that we will keep finding a way to tweak, and they will have to tweak it to become tune in better. Yes, someone. Yes, go ahead.
Sometimes I can't help but feel compassion even for the school system itself because they're fighting an uphill battle. I have a 10-year-old daughter who before
said, Tasha, this is how you should be speaking to him. So she came home obviously in tears, and the first thing she said to me was, well, they don't know him, so they think he's a Russian, but he's not. But aside from that, the teacher called me because she had heard what happened, and she went on and she's crying her eyes out. She said, I never should have taught the Arba by him. I said, but that's not true.
Not true.
Reality. The reality is this is what we
No, true. I did workshops for many decades in schools. Those that would be willing to invite me, I did workshops, and I would show them how you can turn the moment of defiance into class. You can take that moment and actually turn it into this is your Talmud for life. The exact moment when they're going to defy. I'm giving away part of my drasha tomorrow again, but there you go. I talk about these things, I basically don't have much to say. It's the same stuff again and again and again. I apologize, but it's just, it's just a way of thinking after a while that you just see it. But the moment, I taught them that the moment, I had a kid was kicked out because, yes, she was kicked out, I think it was in, I forget which grade it was. It was high school. Ninth grade. Ninth grade. Kid was kicked out in ninth grade because she asked, the teacher was,
Very good question.
Yeah, she was, a recent returnee from BJJ who's going to the teacher, and she's going to very passionate, wonderful young lady, not much experience, obviously, and she was talking about tznius, what else, and she was talking about covering the elbows, and this girl put her hand up and said, elbows? They're so wrinkly.
And ugly.
Ugly. Who's interested in my elbow? And all the girls burst out
no,
laughing.
she said, why just below? Why not above? It's what's so nice about the elbow?
Yeah,
what
do you need this elbow for? It's like she made, and this teacher stormed off.
Well, all the girls laughed.
The girls laughed. She threw her out.
The teacher didn't know what to do.
And they suspended the girl, I think, for Merida, for making a ruach of Merida in the classroom against tznius. I was livid. I was absolutely livid. And I went down to the school to deal with this. And I told them a very simple statement. If I could show you how the teacher, I had the teacher and the principal, if I could show you how you could have responded in a way that would have made this girl your Talmida for life, would you be willing to go and apologize to her? The principal told her not to. Fascinating. Yeah. And then he walked out. The principal told her not to walk down. The teacher, a young girl, she looked at me. She was all teary already. And she said, really? There's a way? She was a sweet kid. She didn't know. She was young, probably 21. I don't know if she was married even. She was like a young kid. And I said, yeah, absolutely. You could. Would you do it? She said, yes, of course. You'll do it? Not that it helped much because, it was so much damage.
The damage was done already, whatever.
But, so I said, it's really simple what to do. She said, really? I said, of course. I said, you're teaching tznius, perfectly reasonable. You're talking about the elbow as some sort of line where you've got to draw. She makes this comment. All the girls burst out laughing. And it is kind of funny, let's be real. It's a funny comment. It's a funny comment. And then you calm the girls down when they've had a good laugh. And you say, girls, I don't know why you're laughing. That's probably one of the smartest questions we've had in this class. I can't remember when we had such a brilliant, insightful, and humorous question. That we all had a good laugh, but it's a great question. And you know what? I don't even know the answer. But I'll tell you this, I'm going to go home to my husband or father tonight, and I'm going to ask, what answer could I give to such a brilliant question? And I'm going to tell you tomorrow. And you, young lady, the one who asked it, you get extra recess today.
Well,
You're
a little
special.
too old for that.
Or whatever. Right? That's what I told her. I said, it's so simple, and you've made this girl your Talmida for life. You just have to have the confidence and the insight to see it. And once you see it, it's all there in front of you. She did, but it didn't work. There was too much other damage, collateral damage done. But nevertheless, it's a way of looking at life that, if we can get them the information, they're not looking, they're just actually defensively reacting because they feel threatened. They just feel terribly threatened. I don't get threatened when someone asks a great question. If someone schlogs me up, it happens occasionally. I'm giving a drush and someone says, Rabbi Russell, there's a Rashi says verkehrt. And I said, really? And he says, yes. I said, that's amazing. How come I didn't know? No one told me. Would you please give me that information? I mean, why would I be offended by that? Fantastic. But you have to assume that you just don't know everything, which is not so difficult, because you don't. So it's not so hard. Yes, you had a question.
Yes, you had said before that you've been going through this for 25 years. And
27, the Rebbitzin said.
27.
Yeah.
But yeah, so after 27 years, and it's been so hard, do you ever get to a place where you're like, what have we done wrong? Like again and again and again, and then what do you do to pick yourself up from there and move forward to give yourself physic to be able to keep going?
I would love to, no, let me rephrase. Yidden, you can go on Wikipedia, by the way, and you can type in expulsions of Jews throughout history. Do you know how many? Someone did it. Someone put together a list for us. There's about 480 of them. Times we Jews were kicked out of somewhere. Our lands and property were possessed by Goyim and we were thrown out or shechted. 480 times, I think it's something like, it's a massive list. It's humbling before Pesach to read that list. We think it's just, you see, it's Mitzrayim, it's on and on and on again. This is our life. God puts us through Nisyanis to take us to a place that we couldn't get otherwise. Once you see that, you live in a different zone of living. You're living in a different place. You have deep rachmanis and sensitivity and compassion for your children who are hurting and have to go through this journey and be hurt. And at the same time, you humbly appreciate the gifts that this has given you in your life. It's a different plane. It's not, see, when you're focused, the natural focus of all parents is that we would like our children to grow up in our image and give us nachas. True or false, right? That's natural. God made us that way. We all would like to squeeze some nachas out of our kids and feel good and watch and enjoy their journey as well, and their simchas, and their simchas are our simchas. We all want that. That's natural. God made it that way. At the same time, He made it not possible. That's why, by the way, I always tell people when they, like men who go through the year of Shiva and the intensity running to minyanim and saying Kaddish, and it's overwhelming, and the work you have to do, and then, and even for the ladies, you can't go to simchas a whole year without simchas, without, social life, friends. We suffer, men and women, during that year of Shiva, and the Sfarim clearly say it's a kapara for the fact that nobody can ever be mechabed their parents properly. There's no such metzias. And you get a year afterwards to go through working on yourself as a kapara for what we couldn't do, because no one can do it properly. So the fact that my kids, I look at it honestly, is it difficult? Is it difficult? It's difficult. But it's been so uplifting. It's taken us to a place we couldn't have got to. Should I regret that in hindsight? No. On the other hand, one has to be realistic and understand that when you're still in it, we were in horrible pain, like anyone would be when you're in it. To be reflective and philosophical, it comes later, later. It doesn't happen when you're in the parsha. You can kind of know that's where I'm heading, and that sustains you maybe. I felt, for me, it was like, I was a strap hanger on the subway of life, and it was jolting us around all over the place. It wasn't pleasant. It wasn't pleasant. We're in a much more, we're in a different place now, where we've grown to see it and understand its gifts and challenges, but understand the gifts of it. You cannot see that when you're right in it. If you did, I think it would be unhuman. I think there'd be something wrong with us if we were so disconnected from our humanity that in the midst of the pasha and the pain and the hurt, we could be like philosophically disconnected, just loving the journey. I think there's something off with that. There's something inhuman. No, I'm serious. I think that's like weird. You need help if you're in that place. We weren't in that. I hope it doesn't sound like we were there. We cried. We were in pain. We took turns being an idiot. At least I did. And that's fair. No,
meaning being mechazik each other.
Yeah.
Meaning if we allowed each other to go down, like to feel down.
Yeah,
Because
we took turns. There were
so
times,
one has to try to stay strong to be there, to be present for the kids.
So we
emotionally.
We knew we took turns being offline. Being offline. Like I'd vent, sometimes. You didn't
We
vent
both.
like me, but I vented.
I cried, he vented.
Yeah, she cried, I vented.
I'm a
That's
woman,
true.
he's a man.
One night, I don't know if I said this story ever, but one night something had happened, I don't know what it was. I went into our master bedroom and I wrecked the place. I took every drawer, tipped it out. I threw everything out the closets. I wrecked the place. I mean wrecked it. Turned over the beds. And then it was raining that night. I drove off to Point Pleasant. I sat it was a rainy, stormy night. Can you imagine? I sat on a bench in this storm, soaking wet, just crying, It was, Anyway, I came home. Maybe I sat there for a few hours. I don't know, it must have been a few hours. My wife had the great opportunity to do this is great, spring cleaning. Let's throw out, ladies turn it into an opportunity. Oh, we don't need that. I didn't know we even had that. Let's throw it. She had bags of stuff, She just turned it into. I came home. She was waiting for me. She was in bed, sitting there. The place was spotless. Everything was cleaned up. And I walked in, and all she said to me is, "Are you feeling better?" We took our turns. We went nuts. I went nuts. Of course, it was. When you're in the midst of it, it's not. I don't believe it's human to be on this level. We share these ideas to know there is a place you can get to. It's real and it's healthy, and it's humble, and it's honest, and it's very connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And it's a very special place that you can't get to any other way. You can't get there without going through this. Not that we would sign up for it. We're not allowed. Al Tabi'enu Demon sign. We're not allowed to. It's arrogant. We can't. But no, in the process we hurt a lot and frequently. We took turns being off and being mechazik each other. And then we evolved. We kind of morphed into this place. My wife said, I think, that I brought a lot of. I was doing research in everything I could find. Every chazal was like talking to me. It was amazing. Everything was talking to. Torah talked to me, and I.
To us, I needed it. I needed it to be mechazik myself. I needed to hear it came from a source that was authentic, that it existed before our own personal tsaros that we were going through, that it was brought down in the Torah like this is meant to be. This is how life is.
And the more I saw it, the more it was there. It kept jumping out at me from Gemaras and Midrashim and Rashis, and it was there. And it was there, in ways that I never saw before. It was the same Rashis, the same stuff that I've been learning, that I didn't realize what it was saying. And then through the prism, through the window of this Nisayan, I saw a truth that I'd not seen before. And we lived off those truths. That's how we lived through it. Yeah.
Wait, I'm sorry. I just want to add something. Also, it's very important to realize that our process, what we went through for 27 years, it's not just chizuk, hashkafa, emuna. We all have some trauma that we've been through, at least most of us. And if we don't work through our own trauma, it's going to get in the way. And I think once we can understand what our blocks are, that's stopping us from helping our kids, that will help us, it'll free us. Once we understand that to be more present for them in a more honest and simple way, as opposed to us not understanding why are we having such a hard time connecting.
Right. I just want to, because what you're saying, I get that. And we actually, in group, I actually was saying all of these things. What, for me, I always think, like, if you look in the Torah, think of their lives. And I told so many people also who asked me that question, and I said, if we look at all the people that Hashem loved, what kind of lives did they have? And so that's not where my struggle is. I was just thinking that maybe from a clinical point, maybe it's something I don't know. When I'm at that place where I'm really struggling and saying, like, this is like, it's just so much. It's not one kid, it's several kids, it's grandkids, it's just a whole bunch of things. And then the finances, and then when you just do the whole mix, it's like, you have to, like, it takes strength to put one foot in front of the other, sometimes even physically, because it's just so draining.
There are so many things you have to know, whether it's physical, whether it's emotional, whether it's hashkafa. No, but for everybody it's going to be different. For everyone, they have to recognize what is the block, what is the piece that is so overwhelming for them, and try to address that. And sometimes, like you said, it could be even a lot of things altogether, and we need to find where we're getting the chizuk. Are we going to get clarity from our own traumas? Are we going to get clarity in chizuk spiritually? Are we going to get a sense of physical help? Is that what we need? What do we need to help us get through this and be a better parent, be a better us?
So it's not one clinical.
No, let me. We're going to finish
It's
in a
going to
moment.
be different for everybody.
By the way, we're going to finish in a moment. I have to get to Mincha shortly. Someone else is
Do
speaking.
we want
yet,
to just
but
get the last question? I
Let's
just
take
feel
a question,
bad.
then I'm going to make a comment to
Yeah.
this. Could we take the question?
And I just want to, I could understand the desire that we have, and we have to come to a better place from it, and I do feel like it's not as many years as you, but I feel like I've definitely gone through a better place. But what's the desire for the children themselves? I see, my son and my daughter, both of them are Shabbos, like, where does that...
Okay. It's a great, great question. And you're not the first to ask this question in the history. The question is, what's the Nisai? The kids Machal Shabbos, or who knows, with a Goyish boyfriend or girlfriend or something. And what's the Nisai for them? We, Baruch Hashem, we're steiging away over here.
They're not happy.
They're definitely not happy.
No, that's what I'm saying. That's an sign in itself.
No, what's it
There's-
about? She's
yeah.
saying, what's it about?
Right,
So-
what does Hashem make them be like?
So, Moshe Rabbeinu asked the same question, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some things
You're in
can't
good
be
company.
answered.
I want to tell you, you're in great company.
Yeah.
Come on, Brachas, Daf Yud Zayin, he asked the same question. You're in wonderful company.
It's like
The
Hashem
answer-
explain the whole world
I
to me.
want
Let
to
me
tell you
understand
something.
everything.
Yeah, I'm wrapping right now. If we knew the answer, if we really knew that answer, this is the question of Tzadik v'Ra'aloi, Rasha v'Toivloi. What was the Rabbeinu Shalom thinking? Make Tzadik v'Toivloi, Rasha v'Ra'aloi, we'll all know where we stand, and we'll do good things. The answer is that the Yesod of Emunah disappears when you have Tzadik v'Toivloi. Now, I'll tell you one last thing before I leave. That I learned in Eretz Yisrael as a bacher. I was in the Negev. I wanted to get away from Yerushalayim and be in a quiet place. I went to an Israeli yeshiva. There were only 4 chutzlaritz boys there. Rav Wolbe sent me there. Because, I wanted a place where I could steig. It was in the Negev, in the Tivot. It was called Yeshivas HaNegev. And there lived Baba Sali. Baba Sali lived there. And we used to go, every month I went into him. And I saw many moisim firsthand, just crazy stuff. I mean, that's for another time, but just amazing, unbelievable stories that happened again and again that we had direct contact with during those years. Just amazing stuff. Anyway, one time the story happened that there was a young woman was... Unfortunately, who knows her story? I don't know the beginning story. Maybe she went off and struggled, but she ended up, as do many tragic stories like this, a girl from home and fell in with an Arab and went and lived in his village and had 3 sons with this Arab in his Arab village. Years later, Pi'ilim finally found out where she was, and it seemed that she wanted out. And Pi'ilim did some kidnapping thing, and they got her out with her 3 sons, 3 Jewish boys, born to an Arab, and she got them out, and they plonked her in Netivot. They hid her in Netivot. And it seems that she had gone into Baba Sali broken-hearted when she was Chayza B'Shuva. And now she had realized the implications of her life and what had happened. And she'd gone to Baba Sali and poured out her grief. And his shamus, his gabbai, learnt by us in yeshiva, so we got all the great stories direct. And he would come in and he would just tell us over what just happened. We'd hear it fresh. So he told us this story. And it seems that Baba Sali went through the Said Shorish Neshama of each of the 3 children. Why? Just like Yehuda and Toma, just like Rus, right, and David HaMelech, he went through exactly why she had to go through. Those neshamas had to collect their sparks out there in that world, and why it had to be the way it was. She had the schus to hear it directly. That story never left me, because, when we say Nistorim Darkei Hashem, that's not a cute line that Avi will send out to everyone. It happens to be true. And that's what we hold on to with our kids and their journeys. We look at our kids and I tell them straight to their face, that your journey is yours, and I find it fascinating. Where it's going to take you and what it's about. It's not over. It's a long way from over.
And we could never say this in the beginning.
Not at the beginning, again. But,
Right.
but at least where we are, we can see it, and I can say it to them. And they laugh when I say it, and we all understand it together. That it's a fascinating story, and don't think Hashem's not there. It's 100% there. And Nistorim Darkei Hashem, we'll never know up until then. But it's
all going to be clear up there.
I hope we all have a marvelous, marvelous Shabbos together. Mr. Hashem, thank you.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.